Hello and welcome back to Redland City Marina, where we are still in the boatyard. Last week we took a look at fixing the soft spots around the deck, starting our diesel tank repair and the first coat of antifoul to go on the boat, as well as the prop speed down on the props. This week we'll have a crack at trying to finish off that diesel tank repair. That'll be great. Also fixing, removing, repairing and refitting our stanchions on the side of the boat. Stanchions, staunchions, we're arguing about how to pronounce that. And also a new problem that's popped up that's going to keep us here in the boatyard just that little bit longer. Let's take a look. And now the next job is going to be, I have some soft spots in the deck which we'll go up and have a look at. But we need to access these spots from underneath. One of them is near the clutches on the starboard side. Pretty much that area there is very soft underfoot, and because we have a unique non-skid pattern on this boat, if we were to cut into that, it's very difficult to replicate that without it making it look like a patch or horrible. The other thing, and possibly where the water has been getting in, is here, where obviously previously they've had another clutch sitting there. There's holes for them which are actually open and water can get in there. So we've got to seal that up and access it from underneath the other side through the ceiling. That's going to be a job for Monday. Unfortunately, there'll be no more work done. Today is Wednesday. The boys are away Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the same is true on the front of the deck near the windlass, where we have a soft spot there under my foot, which you would think would have come from water ingress on these up-down buttons for the windlass, but after unscrewing that and taking that cover off, there's still a good seal under there, so I'm not convinced that that's where it's come from, but we may be able to, once we access from the underside, have a better idea of exactly where it was that the water got in. So that's the main two of those. Also, there's a spot just under here on the deck where I have slopped some epoxy just to stop the water getting in further. There's some cracks in the deck there that I would like looked at. And another one similar on the other side. This is a summary of what's happened after the third day of work. I've been here much longer, where nothing has been happening in the last 4 days, but in terms of the days worked, today's day 3. So downstairs in the starboard rear cabin we will go, and looking at the doorway into the cabin, we look up there. That was one of the soft spots in the deck. You can see there the holes that are for the clutches, and there's some holes on this side of the doorway and a couple of holes on the other side. But you can see how we've cleared out all this rotten soft plywood and balsa. The plywood was in much worse condition than the balsa. Because the balsa is fitted to the deck in individual small squares with epoxy between the squares, each one of those pieces of epoxy acts as a barrier, and it doesn't spread as quickly or as far as it does with the plywood. So the plywood was completely rotten and quite black and horrible. That's all gone now. It's nice and clean. It's just drying out a little bit more before they come back. We'll just go through and turn around and look up to the other side of the doorway. That's what it looks like on the other side. Much the same. And it's dry from there back. So we'll give that, it still needs to be scraped a bit better, and then given a chance to properly dry before being refilled. In the same cabin, right at the back step of the boat, sorry about the light, is something similar where there was a crack in the gel coat up on the step next to the Traveller, find my words. These are the bolts for the Traveller. Yeah, there we've taken 1, 2, 3 of the bolts out where we could see those bolts were a little rusty and corroded, and the further back we cut in this direction towards the back of the boat, the more we saw a bit of dampness. Not bad, but a little bit of dampness. So those bolts we think are the ones that were letting a little bit of water in, not too much. So what we did find was there was a gap between the fiberglass and the solid plywood there that never bonded, which is not a good thing. So again, that will be refilled with presumably plywood again, or something solid. And those rear bolts, they've been drilled out to be cored, and they will be filled with epoxy, re-drilled, and the bolts will be replaced. So that should fix that. And then it's a bit of a gel coat repair on the other side to fix the ugly crack, which was what alerted me. There was no softness in the deck there, only the visible crack, which concerned me a little bit. So it's worth looking at. We'll go over to the other side in the other cabin and have a look at something similar to this one. We'll walk through this construction site. I'm in the process of taking apart the clutches, or I will, and I'll do a bit of a demonstration of how they come apart. No doubt there will be all sorts of gunk inside those. Give them a good clean and put them back together. That'll be coming up. Okay, now we're into the port side rear cabin. And again, there's a lot of sunlight coming through there, but you can see up there, this side was very wet. So the crack that has appeared up there on the deck does go all the way through and was letting a lot of water in there. It was almost dripping out of there. So that's now all been cleaned out. It's quite dry already. It doesn't take long. It's quite warm in here for a start, but sitting there in the sun, it heats up and it dries out very quickly. So the same will happen there. Again, you can see bolts from the Traveller through there, and that's coming along nicely. We haven't even started our job down here of investigating why this diesel tank leaks from somewhere. We're probably going to have to cut this whole floor out and cut this whole cupboard out in order to get access to the tank, or remove the tank to really investigate that. But that's a job coming up over the next few days, which is going to keep me here even longer. You can see the dollar signs rolling like a bloody slot machine. Now, if we go up onto the deck, there is another soft spot in the deck that we're repairing. So the fourth spot on the deck that is quite soft was this spot near the windlass. These were the deck switches for the windlass, and it was quite soft in this area here, which evidently has come from this switch here. Water getting in under the switch and just spreading out under there, rotting the balsa. It appears that the water got in through this front one, which was the original switch that was there when I got the boat, and I installed this one, and in there I haven't cored it, but I used it's an international brand product, the name International I mean, and I have soaked that balsa in there with that material, which is very thin and soaked into the timber, so that's hard and waterproof. But the other one, not so much. So if we get access to that through the anchor locker, we go down. I haven't been able to really get footage of this as it was being done because just too difficult with the guys here. I don't want to get in their way. But here we can see, so we've cut it from the bottom, which is nice to be able to have access to that, which means you don't have to cut into the deck, into the non-skid, and do a patch that way, which will look terrible. So that's how much of the wood of the balsa has rotted out. Quite a bit. That's all the rubbish in the bottom of the... I've dropped the whole anchor chain down underneath the boat so that it didn't spill all this rubbish in amongst the chain. I'll clean this out in a minute. There'll probably be a little bit more gouged out of there, but that can continue to really dry out over the next day or two, or however long it takes. And then the boys will refill that and glass it, and it should be as good as new or better. And lastly, this is going to be where the new big deck cleat goes that I will tie up mooring buoys to, and then the mooring line to the buoy will go forward along the catwalk over to here, where we have our new roller on the front. So the painter from the mooring buoy will sit in there. We've got nice rounded front edges, so there'll be no chafing if we do go left and right. Now some people, including the boys here, have suggested, well, instead of doing this, why not have a shortened bridle? Because the reason I do this, want this here, and have that deck cleat, is so I can pull the mooring buoy up very short so that the buoy itself sits right there in the middle of the hulls and doesn't go bonk, bonk, bonk on the hulls in the middle of the night, as it always does at 2 AM. Yeah, but if I have a shortened bridle, you've got the bridle coming from that side of the deck and this side of the hull, I should say. And you've got to pull it up over the front to attach it, and then as short as you make it, you're still throwing something back in the water, which is going to give that buoy more space to hit the hulls, enough space to hit the hulls. I don't think you'd make it short enough to prevent it and still make it manageable to be able to attach the painter of the mooring board. I hope that makes sense, but it certainly makes sense to me in my mind, because I know the difficulties we've had with trying to shorten those lines before so that the bonking doesn't happen. So a bit of an update on what's happening in the boatyard. The short answer is not much. We've got drizzly, rainy, crappy weather today. It's Monday. The boys don't work over the weekend, so of course you get charged for the hard stand being here over the weekend, so that's about $100 a day. This has been 2 weeks now I've been here, so of that 4 days nothing has happened. On top of that, there's been another 2 days when the boys have been away and not available, so 6 days where I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs and nothing's happening with the boat, which is really frustrating. Now that we're getting closer, still not finished, the diesel tank is taking a fair bit of work. I'm still happy with what's happening, but it's a fiddly difficult job without taking the whole thing out, making a new tank, reinstalling and redoing the floor. All of that is a very big job, so we're doing it in situ. We're getting close to getting back into the water. Really frustrating knowing that this is costing quite a bit of money to do, and every day is adding on that little bit more, and I don't really have unlimited funds, far from it. So I'll be very pleased to finish up all of this stuff and actually get back to doing the things that I bought the boat for, like sailing. Let's have a look and see what we've got in the engine room with the tank. Oh, of course, down here, that's never a good sign on a boat when you see bowls with water in them. So that's coming from above where I took off the clutches the other day, this is on the port side of the boat, and the holes, not sure how well you can see that, but the holes where the bolts go through to hold the clutches onto the deck did have some epoxy put into those, but there's some old holes that were never filled properly that are leaking. So the boys are going to core all of those holes, core them out, epoxy the lot, and make sure that that is completely watertight. Otherwise we'll end up with the same thing that's happening on the starboard side of the boat and end up with that soft spot and the balsa rotting in the deck, and I definitely don't want that happening again. So that will be resolved. And as far as the tank goes, what I'm standing on is just a temporary floor because the actual floor has been cut out and the tank itself has been cut open. I think I showed that to you the other day. Now in here what we've done is, I say we, I've done nothing. The boys are doing it all, and this is well beyond the scope of anything that I could do myself, I think. We only had one breather line for the two tanks that are here. One's here that I'm standing on, and then another one is forward under the floor there. And for both of those tanks, they shared a single breather, which is this one here, to let the air essentially in and out so the tank doesn't get sort of pressurized. We've installed a second breather, and there was reasons why that was quite weird. The breather was actually the return line, sorry, from the engine. When the engine runs, it consumes a certain amount of diesel, but it takes more than it needs and it sends what it doesn't need back through a return line back into the tank. But this return line was going into that single breather. So that's not ideal. I won't get into the nitty-gritty of all of that because I'll probably say something wrong about it, but it's not ideal. So we've given each of the tanks now their own breather so that they will work properly. That's the second new one here, going up and over, and it goes up and over like that just to give it that little bit more height, so that more so on monohulls, if you're heeled over and water gets to that point of the boat that it doesn't come in. Not really applicable to a cat so much, but just for added safety, this one he's put a loop in the top end. We've put in a new deck fitting for where the diesel goes in, and new hose for when you want to fill the tanks up, which comes down to here, and this large cock here is to separate the front tank from the rear tank. So the work that is yet to be done is the fiberglass tank that I'm standing on needs to be completely cleaned out. It has been lined with a paint that over time, and this is now, how old? 91, 30 odd years. Over that period, the paint has largely flaked off inside the tank, so there's paint chips in the bottom, flaking paint on the walls of the tank. He's going to put a new layer of resin over the inside of the tank, and then the new lid has been or is being made in the shed. That will come over and get fiberglassed on top of the tank to enclose it all and make it all beautiful and solid and getting it back to the way that it should be. So a hell of a lot of work and really slow, slow, finicky work for this. But anyway, that's boats, and hopefully we'll get it done sooner than later. So now we've got a coat of vinyl ester resin put onto the bottom of the tank. There'll be a few coats of that. The last one will have to have some wax in it so that it doesn't dry tacky. And and then we must be close to getting the lid on. We're ready for the lid to go on now. That is vinyl ester resin in the bottom of the tank, and Craig has tinted it with an orange pigment just to make it absolutely clear in case we've missed any spots. But that looks really good, feels great. It was scraped right back to bare fiberglass. All the other paint, any paint that was remaining, was firmly affixed to the bottom. It's had resin over the top of it. The outside top of the old tank here has been sanded back to rough the edges for the adhesion of the new resin and the new lid. The old tank sensor that was here has been removed and fiberglassed over, and there'll be a new fitting in the new lid that goes on top there where the tank sensor will go. So that should be done today. Yeah. Anyway, for the purpose of the video, this is the moment of truth. For the diesel tank, the lid's about to be glued down using some vinyl ester resin and some thickeners in there. So I've been doing some grinding here in the head, above the head, up the wall there, because all the top layer of bog or whatever it was on top was bubbling and cracking and had a drip, quite a bit of drips of water coming out of it. So I've ground that back, and you can see here what it's like. That goes all the way up. That's the chain plate, and that's beside it. And I'm going to stop there to let the boys have a look at it, because that certainly looks like the fiberglass cracked all the way down there, and I just got dripped on through that chain plate. So I think that's clearly coming out of the chain plate, which is not good. And we'll see what they say about that. A little bit more on development from the other crack that I found near the chain plate is in here. So the boys have ground all of that back on both sides of the bulkhead here. That's where the chain plate ran. It's been removed in preparation for new fiberglass. And you can see, if we go for a walk up onto the deck, the rig is now supported using that concrete block down there that they've tied off to. It goes up to the mast. There's this line right here in front of me, which also goes to the mast, to the rear port quarter of the boat, just to make sure that mast and rigging stays upright. And then obviously that'll be reattached once the the work is done to reinforce near that chain plate. This is on the deck where the at the top of the chain plate, where the rigging attached to the top of the boat. That's where the water was getting in. So that'll be a job for the boys today. And we're supposed to be going back in the water tomorrow, so a fair bit to try and get done today. Hopefully there's enough time. Not only that, but we still have to weld these stanchions here that had the welds cracking at the base. So that must be a job for today too, I assume. We'll see. The boys are due to turn up shortly. Those holes have been drilled out and filled, and fiberglass over the top just to give us a flat surface to work with. And there's a few cracks around the outside of those holes, and this is just to seal and cover all of those. This is peel ply on the top, that'll come off. Then it'll be sanded and some gel coat on the top. See if we can roughly match the colour. And then I think there'll be a plate put over the top of that, and then the chain plate itself will go on. So when we came here to Redland City Marina, we wanted only the finest tradesmen, the absolute finest tradesmen working on the boat.
And all they got is me.
We couldn't find them, so we got Brett instead. So we're done, finally, after, I forget how many weeks, too many. Finally going back in the water and getting out of here today. So we've finished all the jobs, most of the jobs. Now the boat just needs a bloody good clean. But we can attend to that the next few days. So just to recap quickly, the things that we got done were putting in those water tank sensors, 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, running them through the floor over on the starboard side, over in underneath the galley there. That was a pain. But all of that is done and operating well. That's such a luxury after not having it. Little things. The diesel tank is now in. That's the new floor that just slots in. So yes, the tank came out really well. It doesn't have diesel in it just yet, but I'm pretty confident it should be right. It's not guaranteed because we didn't actually remove the tank. That would have been a much bigger job and more expensive. All those cupboards would have to have come out, the whole floor, then the tank, then making a new tank and putting it in and reconnecting it would have been massive. So we have kind of hedged our bets a little bit. We did find a couple of areas where there were some cracks around some hoses. Whether those things are what was letting the diesel out, because there was a fair bit getting out, remains to be seen. So I'm really hopeful, but quietly confident that it should be all good. The soft spots in the decks, you can't see anything because the felt is now back on. That was up there, and the same is true for a lot of the work that was done here. These are not upgrades that you can see and love. I mean, the water tank sensors you can see, and I like those, but a lot of it is stuff that just remains hidden. I have the confidence of knowing that all of these repairs are bigger, better and stronger than they ever were, not just before the damaged period, but yeah, much stronger than it was before. So I'm very, very pleased about that. The chain plate repair, which is a little bit obscure because of this door, sorry. Let's have a look. Now looks like that. So it's been reaffixed. More fiberglass right through the back of that bulkhead and tabbed in around the corners, and then up through the deck with the shrouds now reattached the way that they should be. So that looks really good. That's just undercoat on there at the moment. We want to paint or put something else on the walls in here to change this fairly ugly yellow colour. We'll do something else with that, so it wasn't important to paint this a particular colour. And I should say that I'm very happy with the work done by Craig and Brett from and Wayne from Australian Fiberglass Traders. Those guys at Redland City Marina, I have not just faith in them to do a good job, but I also trust them as men that I've met over not just these few weeks, but they've done work on this boat in the past, and I trust them and I trust their advice. I've seen how much care that they take during the repairs, how thorough they are, and I'm really happy to, like, they're not the cheapest, they're not the most expensive either. But I have confidence in them and I trust them and the work that they do. So I highly recommend them if you are looking for somebody for these kinds of jobs. And they're great for just any kind of jobs, really. Fiberglassing, installing equipment. They put in our hot water system, they put in our deck washers, they put in our washing machine, and a heap of other work. That was over 12 months ago. So yeah, look, I can't recommend them highly enough, and I'm very, very pleased with the work that they've done. So thanks guys, appreciate your help. So all up, I'm very pleased to be back. Once we give the boat a clean, we're that much closer to actually getting on our way, and we might actually get us filming, doing some sailing for a change. Looking forward to that.